We the people know who the enemies of freedom, liberty, and individual rights are. You talk about a reset. You talk about censorship. You talk about taking land. You talk about economic slavery. And you talk about government control over the people. You have always talked about these things, and throughout history have always tried to take from us our freedom and our liberty. Well, I have news for you. You will never take from us our freedom, our liberty, and never our individual rights, because they are gifts from God, and the scriptures tell us that where the Spirit of the Lord is, so is freedom. We will never surrender to you. We will never negotiate with you. We will defeat you and send you to the ash bin of history where all communists reside. Look at this flag, and look at this flag. You have reason to fear these two symbols of freedom, because the people who proudly fly these flags have become a mighty powerful force for freedom and liberty. Remember this: at the end of the day, you lose and we win. Let freedom reign. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers, and welcome to Tonight in Canada. We have a lot to cover. I have a great guest who will be with us in a few minutes. But over the past 48 hours, I've received literally, folks, hundreds, probably close to 2,500 emails and messages from people not only across the United States, but a lot of people in Canada who would like to have me give you an update as much as I could with regard to our elections here. Because as you all know, that the impact that this election will have on Canada will be profound. And so I'm going to give you an update, very brief update, and then we'll move on to some of the very important issues that we need to talk about regarding Canada. Now, I want to get one thing straight and very, very clear for those of you who are rather concerned about what we are going to do here at Campaign for America as this election in the United States winds down. Well, frankly, we're not going anywhere. We're going to stick with you. We're going to stay with you. We're going to continue to help you fight for your freedom and liberty, no matter how things turn out here. We made a commitment to the people of Canada, and we're going to stick with it. So I have very, very high hopes that as we move forward, we're not only going to be successful here in the United States, but certainly we're going to be successful in working with the people of Canada to ensure that your liberty and freedom will also be secured. Because we are married together. And I've got some news, if I remember, at the end of this broadcast to share with you on how married together we in the United States are to Canada. Now, a quick election update. To begin with, we need 9 more seats. 9 more seats to obtain power, complete and total power in the House of Representatives. That is very important. The House of Representatives in this country holds the purse strings to the White House, the purse strings to all of the agencies that this government is run by. So all we need is 9 more seats, and then we will take complete and total control of not only the House of Representatives, but you watch and wait and see that we will take control of the entire U.S. government, regardless of what Joe Biden says. That's number one. Number two, we need 2 more seats for control of the Senate. Now, I understand that Arizona still has a few 100,000 votes to count. There are other things going on that certainly are going to delay whether the Republicans take control of the Senate. Maybe we'll find out by Saturday, maybe Sunday, but really we're not going to find out in actuality until December. If we don't take 2 seats now that bring us over the top, we need 50 plus 1. The state of Georgia is going to be critical, and that will result in a runoff race in December. But let's just say, because people have asked the questions, what if the Republican Party loses the Senate? Folks, we have the House of Representatives, believe me. We're going to have a lot of power in the House. So I'm not too concerned that if we lose the Senate, we're still going to have the House. And believe me, that is absolutely critical with regard to a lot that what's going to go on in this country in the future. Now, what you in Canada have not heard about, I'm sure you haven't heard about this. All across the United States of America, and we've said this from day one with regard to elections here, especially as we went into the primary elections here in the United States, what was critically important, as important as the United States Congress, were local races, school board races, city council races, mayoral races, state races. Well, I'm happy to share with you that across America, conservatives swept right through these towns and these cities. There are thousands of conservatives have been elected to school boards, got rid of a lot of liberals and progressives, city councils, and other state elections. The liberals were wiped right out. So we have now a lot of control in a lot of school districts that is fundamentally and critically important for the future of this country. And that's going to continue to go on and on and on. So we hope to have down the road some of the new school board members in this country that will be able to share with you on this broadcast just how they did it. And they did it the way we actually shared with them that they need to employ certain tactics and strategies that would convince the people that they needed to have conservative valued people on the school boards. So that's the good news. And we have some gubernatorial races where it looks like we now have more governors elected to office who are now conservative Republicans than Democrats are. So we made a lot of headway across this country. And of course, the mainstream media is not sharing that because that doesn't advance their narrative. But the stage is set for 2024. The stage is set. And it looks like Ron DeSantis is going to become the leader of the Republican Party here in the United States. He just his state absolutely decimated, destroyed the Democrat Party, destroyed the liberal influence in that state. And so he's going to be moving forward, I'm sure, with plans in the future. And he's going to start getting this country back on track where it belongs. Now, for those of you in Canada, stay the course. I'm telling you, folks, stay the course. I got so many emails where many of you said you're discouraged. You were waiting until November and this happened. Well, what actually happened was good. Not that we got everything we wanted at this point. Of course, we want the Senate. And of course, we want the House of Representatives. And of course, we want the local elections. We got 3/4 right now and may get the full piece of pie in a couple of weeks. But keep in mind, the fact of the matter is we wanted the House of Representatives and we got it. And prayerfully, we're going to get the Senate. If we don't, well, you know what? There's elections in 2 years when it comes to the Senate. And I'm confident we would take it then. But right now, I'm pretty happy where we are. We're sitting in a pretty good position right now. But stay the course. We're going to stick with you. We're married together. I'm not going to be a divorce here, okay, between our countries. We're going to stick with you. And we're going to make sure that we do everything we could to help you out there in Canada. And then I'll talk to you a little bit later before the end of our broadcast what we're planning to do as we move forward. But I got a great guest, folks. I got a great guest from Canada, and I'm going to bring him on right now. This is Kevin Friesen, and Kevin is a leader in the Keystone Party that is in Manitoba. Kevin, thanks for joining me tonight.
It's so good to be here with you.
Well, okay, my friend. So can you tell us about your party, about yourself? We have a large American audience as well as a Canadian audience, and we're very curious as to what's going on in Canada. And if you could help us learn about you, your party, and then the issues you're addressing there in Canada.
Yeah, so the way the party started up, just to fill in where Manitoba is, so we're in the middle of Canada. We've for many, many years now, no matter which party seems to be in power, which legacy party seems to be in power, we seem to be follow other provinces type of leadership in it. And we are actually the richest province in Canada as far as resources in northern Manitoba, as far from diamonds to gold to silver to all the makings of batteries, as well as probably the richest province as far as hydroelectric power as well. And so it just seems that the good versus evil thing that's going on has seemed to put Manitoba in the backseat in so many issues. And so agriculture is really the only thing that seems to be leading the province and kind of keeping us afloat. And so a few years ago, a couple of us, we tried to fix the Conservative Party from the inside, and I can tell you that it was a lot easier for us to just start a new party, and so that's what we did. So in 2021, we officially started working on this. We started with a constitution. We wanted to give all the power to the people of Manitoba, not to the leaders and the dictators, as we were seeing happening, no matter which party was in power, left or right, or left or extreme left, I should say. And so we started a true grassroots party in Manitoba, and it probably hasn't even hit all of the biggest city in Manitoba, Winnipeg. It probably hasn't even hit all the news there. Yes, we've been on the front page of the newspaper when we were registered, but we are officially a party ready to run in the election, which will be in October of 2023.
Now, this must shake Trudeau and that government up pretty bad, because you're grassroots. I mean, you're right where the people are. And I'm hearing, at least we're hearing in the United States, that the people in Canada are really uniting. I mean, as one big, massive voting bloc that can really change that government. And you seem to be part of that movement.
Well, we are part of the movement. I guess what we're trying to do, and the provinces beside us of Saskatchewan and Alberta are kind of trying to derail what Trudeau is doing. And we're kind of trying to say that the people of our provinces have a lot of things that they can do without our federal government. There's a lot of ways that we can remove the federal government from interfering in our lives. And so we're coming at it from a provincial view that we just need to remove every single way that the federal government has infringed in not only our freedoms, but our ways of making money, the ways that we, as our provinces, need to be self-sufficient. But currently in Manitoba, we're the only party kind of speaking this language.
You know, in Alberta, I understand that was it a premier? Are those the ones in charge of your provinces, like our governors, I suppose?
That's right. Yeah.
Steele. Is it Diane Steele? That her name?
Smith. Yeah, Diane Smith.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I that's the second time I called her Diane Steele, probably because there's an author named Diane Steele.
Okay.
So anyway, forgive me, folks.
No problem.
I'm tired. Anyway, the premier in Alberta seems to be really rocking. I mean, with regard to standing up to Trudeau and his government, she's been called the Ron DeSantis of Canada. I mean, she's really rocking. And so have you been, or do you expect to be in touch with her and maybe to collaborate some things? I like that smile. There we go, buddy.
It's very interesting. I can't give you the whole story of what's going on, but a few weeks ago, actually, Danielle Smith, who you're talking about, and the Premier of Saskatchewan, Scott Moe, they would like to actually, if you look at a map of Canada, you'll see that in the middle of our country, there's a great big water, and there's a deep water port there. And we think it's the answer for Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba to get rid of our oil, to get rid of our natural gas, to get rid of a lot of our grains, and obviously our precious metals. And so Danielle Smith wrote a letter to our premier, and it was public, asking her asking our premier, which is a lady right now by the name of Heather Stephenson, asking her if she would like to be part of this plan to get together as three provinces and kind of, like I said before, kind of get rid of the federal government's jurisdiction and the way they cancel pipelines and do all this stuff. And so our premier, which is a progressive conservative party, actually said that she figured it was not wise for us to move that way, and it was better. And she felt that Danielle Smith was just doing a political stunt, and actually refused to meet with her about this. And so we have immediately jumped all over this, and I can't exactly tell you exactly how the talks are going, but we will be talking very seriously with both the Premier of Saskatchewan and the Premier Smith that you were talking about.
And that is great news. I mean, that is good news that you're collaborating with them. By the way, I think your entire country, I don't know if you see the chat room, has made it clear to me it is Danielle Smith. So I will now not forget that name. Thank you. Thanks, folks. But you see, what you're doing, collaborating with other leaders, is a great thing. We don't see much of that here. We have some problems within our own party that we just simply have to straighten out. The finger pointing at each other, the name calling that's going on. Campaign for America is going to be part of that healing process, I hope. But it seems to me that you are kind of thinking ahead and working with other like-minded leaders. And that is something that I think is very, very important. So let's talk about some issues that are concerning the United States with regard to Canada. One of the issues that is really concerning us with regard to Canada is that Bill C-11 that truly appears to us, at least, that it'll hinder the ability of the Canadian people to get certain news broadcasts into your country and getting certain information out of your country. We've dubbed it the 21st century Berlin Wall, the electronic wall, compliments of Prime Minister Trudeau. So can you give us a little rundown of what you know, where it's at now in your parliament, where you expect it to be, and what you expect to happen if it passes?
So I'm not an expert. I'll be upfront with you. I'm not an expert with what's happening on that federal C-11. Is that what you're talking about?
C-11, yeah.
C-11, yeah. So I do know what's happening, but I actually don't believe that this country, especially under the leadership of the opposition party federally, I don't believe that will pass. I hope that the coalition that is being formed between the NDP and the Liberals, I hope that will not go through. But if it does, you're right, we are in deep trouble. Things like what we're doing right now could be perhaps not allowed. It's frightening, but it's nothing we can do from a provincial level right now. There's really nothing we can do except for to get people riled up about it. The reason I think that we can do something about it, and I'll give you an example. Our province came up with a really crazy bill of their own, and it had to do with education. I won't go into detail, but the only thing that stopped it was almost every Manitoban stopped that bill by putting a sign on their front lawn. And it was stopped Bill C-64 is what it is. So for your Manitoba listeners, you'll remember it. And that's the only way it seems like democracy can really be brought. And so don't sit silent. You Canadians, we need to fight that C-11 bill for sure. And maybe that's how we have to do it, is by putting signs up everywhere, getting everybody educated on what really that stupid bill is about.
You know, you just said something very interesting and by the way, very good. And that's about educating the public, not only about the issues, but what they can do. I mean, look, I've said all along, we, the people, outnumber the bad guys. The bad guys are those who are hindering the ability of the people to exercise their free speech and liberty. And so you have people, what you just said, putting signs out, making the lawmakers well aware that people are listening and they're watching and they're learning. Now, we here in the United States, we're keeping an eye on that, and we're going to educate our legislatures around the country and our Congress as to what's going on there. And the ones, at least that I've spoken to, one didn't know what was going on there with regard to Bill C-11, and they're concerned. And the question I have for you is this. Do you get any sense, and by the way, some of your lawmakers are watching this broadcast, and if they're not watching, they have people watching and they're going to report back to them. And I've asked them this question: are you guys concerned about the image that Trudeau has projected around the world with regard to Canada, as the image Joe Biden has projected around the world as it is to America? We're now looked upon as a very weak country. Our enemies, I think, are just itching for the right time, the right moment to make any move anywhere on the surface of this earth because of Joe Biden and what's he done to the image of this country. And the same goes for Canada and Trudeau. Is there anybody? I haven't heard anybody, at least in America. I'm hearing Republicans and now some Democrats saying, look, enough's enough. We got to put an end to this. And we've got to do something to make this ship on the right course. Any lawmakers in Canada? I haven't heard of any, except for a few. I should say 2 or 3, but anybody really going out there leading the charge for the people?
Well, I mean, if you think that you guys aren't very powerful, well, if the U.S. isn't powerful, we're dead in the water, and there's no other way about that. Our military is not strong to begin with, but that's a totally different issue. No, I think our lawmakers. I think deep down there's a lot of lawmakers that realize that we are in trouble. They're being silenced by the woke agendas and all the other agendas that are out there. But unfortunately, I don't have good news about a lot of lawmakers making a big deal of this now.
Yeah, they should be ashamed of themselves. And I've said I hear about the American lawmakers who've turned their backs on the people. At least, though, the one thing we have, and you just articulated something regarding the power of your provinces. We have a 10th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States called states' rights. So the states could pretty much do what they want and tell Joe Biden he could take his laws and put them in a trash can. And we're seeing that happening now in many Republican-led states across the country. But something you said haunts me, all right, really haunts me night and day, because I've heard it from leaders around the world. And suppose many of the American people don't realize how other countries depend on us as being a powerful country when it comes to the fight for freedom and liberty. And we need to stay powerful here. We need to keep our military strong. And frankly, we need Canada. We sometimes believe, well, a lot of these countries need us. Well, we need Canada. We need the support of Canada, as Canada needs our support, because now we're all in the same boat. Kevin, we're all in the same boat now.
Yeah.
And so we need to work with each other and to stay strong. Which I want to talk to you about something has a lot to do with power, a lot to do with politics, has a lot to do with we need to do as Americans, as Canadians in government. Now, I'm going to be delivering a speech in about a week or so to the American groups, as well as some of the lawmakers. And I was asked a question by a news, and I'm going to ask you to weigh in on this, by a news reporter as to what I think we need to do in America to get back on track. And my answer was, well, we need to turn back to a time when we believed in God, when we got on our knees, when we were willing to pray together as a country. We need to turn back the clock when we talk to our children about respect, honor, dignity of our offices. I am not happy here with the way some Republicans have conducted themselves in elections and the name calling and the bitterness. It's very destructive. There's a picture behind me, and I make a lot of reference to that picture. I don't know if you could see it here. It's Ronald Reagan. Everywhere I went, we campaigned very hard around this country. And when I asked people who would they like to see become president of the United States, and Reagan's name was the number one name. Why? And when I asked why, well, he promoted and projected dignity to the office, dignity to the country, talked about God, I mean, unabashedly. So you and I, before we went on the air, we had a little talk about the spiritual aspects of this, and you as a leader. So I think it'd be good for the people to hear some of the things you told me from your heart, because I think it'd be a real strength to people in your nation.
Well, what we were talking about earlier was, maybe this is even a little bit further, but I was not a politician. I'm a farmer by trade. And so I was willing to get this party up and running and to help this party get going, but I never envisioned myself to be the leader. I was more of the mentality, for those of you who know the story of Moses and Aaron. I was saying to God that I'll help you wherever you want, but please send Aaron, not me, Moses. And so for some reason, the path that I believe God has chosen for me is to help lead this party right now. I hope I can do that with humility, and that's the only way this party will work, because the party is based on a grassroots have all the power and the leader has none. And so I'm willing to lead, but I'm also willing, in my case, to give God the glory for everything that's going to happen, because it's not going to be me that makes this happen. It's going to be Him.
I'll tell you, that's so refreshing to hear from anybody who is involved in politics. It's a tough game. It's just something that we need to keep in mind as we get elected to office, and we need to convey, like you just did, such messages to the people, because politicians, you've been around, I'm sure you'd agree with me on this. Many of these people in office, they lie, they deceive, they tell one audience one thing, another audience another thing, and then the problem we face in the 21st century is the internet with all the fake news, the inaccurate information, on and on and on. And I've shared with people time and time again is that, look, the only place you're going to get the truth is right here. This is the only place, the unadulterated truth. But those of us in office, those of us who are leaders like yourself, like those of us who are involved here in the United States, we need to keep in mind that we must constantly share with the people, as you just so really, really, very well did, let them know that you know who you're accountable to.
Yeah, I think it even goes a little bit further, and the way it works in our province is there are really good and godly people that are actually leading party or helping lead the Conservative Party and perhaps the NDP Party too. I don't know many from that side, but what has happened in our provinces in Canada here is that the legacy parties have actually corrupted them so bad that the good in a person can't be portrayed, and it almost squelches any good that is in that person, and the party politics takes over, and that's what we're trying to change. Our motto at the Keystone Party is to change what government is.
You know, you're absolutely right. I'm looking at. Could you see the chat on your end? Could you
I
see
can
the?
see, I'm trying not to be distracted too much, but yeah.
Oh no, that's okay. I've got Americans here. I've got other people here, and I've got most of the Canadians here. But I like the one that said I never. And this is good. I've never heard of this guy, and that's a good thing. You see, so now they heard of you. You know, and that's a good thing. What is his party called? All right, so let's again let us know who you are, because some people probably tuned in late.
Yeah,
And
so
then,
if you wanted to check it out, it's very simple. Keystone Party Manitoba. You'll find it right away on the web.
Keystone Party Manitoba.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about the C11 issue. What do you think is the issue in Canada? Here's the economy. It may be there in your country, but the dinner table issue in your country, what people are concerned about and talking about.
For sure, the economy is probably number one. I mean, we're paying ridiculous amounts for gas. Our taxes are ridiculously high. But I think actually in our province, what we are facing most right now is division. The division that the last 2 years have separated families, have separated friends, have separated businesses. And I think that even all the labeling that the media puts on everything, it's totally a separatist idea in every way, shape, and form. It's even got to the bottom of churches. And so I think what we really need to do is go to our province, and everybody needs to realize that we are all Manitobans. And as your friend behind you said there in his speech to California many years ago, he said that there's a genius in every single one of us. And we need that genius in every single people to get us together and to get us to build this province to be one of the most powerful provinces in Canada, and to help Canada be one of the most powerful countries in the world.
Well said. Well said. There's something that you just said, and I think you made reference to the churches. We have encouraged, and we're going to continue to encourage, almost to the point of embarrassment, with a lot of these clergy members who are not standing up. And I can only speak for what's happening here in America. I know in your country, you've had some of these pastors who did stand up and went to jail for what they believed in. Mm-hmm. Pastor Arthur's one of them, and I believe Pastor Tobian and others. But my point is that, and there are pastors watching. There are many watching. I know many in America watching. I've shared with pastors, they don't have to get entangled in the politics. You know, in this country, if they could lose their tax exempt status if they got involved and entangled, but they could become an influencer like they did throughout our history by getting behind the pulpit. They don't have to give a political speech, but get behind the pulpit and talk about your responsibility before God to get involved in making sure your government is working within the framework of perhaps what God intended us to be. What's going on in your country with the clergy?
There too. I think they're divided. I think there was people. I mean, our government. I'm not sure if you're aware of this. Our government was paying churches and pastors to enforce some of the rules that were happening, to be tattletales, to tell their congregants to go and take the jab, and all these things. And so that has driven a huge division within pastors from even maybe the same denomination, and for sure between denominations, huge division. And that's
the first I'm hearing of that. I want to share something with you that we're here at Campaign for America. We've had people in touch with us that lived in communist countries, particularly the Soviet Union. And they shared with us a very chilling thing, and you just articulated something that is chilling, that the Christians in the Soviet Union had to hide. They couldn't openly pray or read the Bibles, but the Catholics in the Soviet Union, when they went to confession, for those of you who are not Catholics, in the Catholic faith, what they'll do is you go to a priest in a church, there's a screen where he can't see you or you can't see the priest. And according to their doctrine, you confess your sins. Right. And so people would do that only to learn that the priest was a KGB agent and that you would be immediately arrested and jailed. And now you're sharing with me that in Canada, the churches were somewhat given, I guess, quote unquote, donations, contributions in order to toe the line of the government in Canada. Now, that's what is troubling to those of us in the United States, that things have gotten that far in Canada where they have compromised the clergy. Now, shame on the clergy for even, that's bribery, for goodness sakes. But absolutely. When they say it's a donation, it's legal, I suppose. But what about the heart and the soul and the spirit of these pastors? I just don't get it. And I'm sure it's happened here to a great degree.
Well, if we look at what's happening here, and if you can't see it, you need to look deeper. And that is what has happened. And I'm not just talking about COVID. I'm talking about everything to do with what's happening in politics right now. It is a good versus evil. And whether you believe in God or whether you don't believe in God, if you can't see that there is a battle from good and evil right now, there is, it is just so obvious that, I mean, what better way than to attack the church than the way we've done it the last few years. It's unbelievable it happened as fast as it did. We would have never dreamt it could come to Canada or the US, but that's the way evil overcame us. But the good news is that we win. That's the good news.
Yeah. We always win. I've always said that. We win and they lose. That's right. But you bring up a good point. And more political leaders, at least we're getting to and talking to personally, eyeball to eyeball. One of the things that we did during this campaign is deliver the message you just shared with regard to good versus evil in this fight. When you read the Bible, you read all the prophecies, obviously, we're not surprised. But people need to be encouraged, as you have encouraged them, and I have in others, and don't be discouraged, because we do have a calling. You mentioned that you got a call from God to do what you're doing, and I believe we all have a call from God to do those things that would strengthen not only our countries, but strengthen His kingdom. And that's why I said to this reporter, and I'm going to deliver this speech in a week or so, that if we're really serious about healing our lands, then we got to turn our lands back over to the author and giver of life, then the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And that's just not, that's not the talking points. That's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I have nothing to add to that. That's the way it is, for sure.
Well, I've got to tell you, this was I've had such a dynamic week. I mean, all the politics. This was such a pleasure to speak with you. I mean, really a pleasure to have a conversation with you where people, I could tell are listening. I always look at what the people are saying, etc. Now, before I let you go, we're going to have a little abbreviated broadcast tonight because Project Maple Leaf, which a lot of the Canadians know we've been working on. That's a program here in the United States that we have put together to gather information with regard to how your government responded to the convoy. We have a lot of video footage of people being victims of excessive force and probably, in my view, criminal acts of police. We've got a lot of information that we dug up through a lot of research. Now, why are we doing that? We are not doing it to interfere with your government. We can't. We don't want to. We want everybody to handle their own government issues. It's internal. But what is not internal is what we see publicly. And what is not internal and what Trudeau cannot stop us from doing is educating our legislature, educating our lawmakers, and educating our people. And believe me, there have been efforts, and I won't get into many details. I don't intend to, but there have been efforts to even shut us down, not coming from the United States, but coming from Canada. They failed, completely and utterly failed. So we're not going nowhere. In fact, we have a backup plan. It's an interesting thing. I met with my team. I said, well, what if they shut us down on Facebook? Well, we have Rumble, we have all these other things. But if you have that electronic wall go up, what do? Well, we go back to Radio Free Europe and just rename it Radio Free Canada. You see, and we get the information into your country. I don't think, I just don't want to believe it's going to get that far. And I don't believe it will, Kevin, get that far, because Trudeau is not only hearing it from this side of your border, but he's hearing it from Europe. He's hearing it from European leaders like Christine Anderson and others. He's as they say, he's catching a lot of hell.
What I can tell you in Canada here is that I will be dead before many of those things happen, because I really have nothing to lose. I mean, I can go back and farm anytime. I live in the middle of nowhere, literally, and I'll put my life on this, and it's something that I believe it's worth. So,
well, it is. A pastor once said to me, "Look, you're out there doing a job, and the good thing about it is you have less years ahead of you than you have behind you." I said, "Well, that's right." And my prayer has always been, "Lord, let the last mile count. Let it count." And I know you feel that way. Anybody here in Canada and even the U.S. you want to ask any questions before I let our distinguished guests go? Anybody else? I'll give you a few minutes. Yeah, let's see here. Okay. All right. Let's see. Anything here? The Bill C-11. All right. They were concerned about. Well, it looks like you really did well here. So, all right. So one more time, please give your website. And then, by the way, when is your elections coming up? When is that?
So there was it's pretty much officially going to be October 3rd, 2023. So we got 11 months to get the whole province educated to what we are. The legacy media out there paints us as a right-wing extremist party, and even though I'm definitely a right-wing person, we are not an extreme right-wing party at all. So yeah, for those out there who are believers and want to pray for us, pray for the Keystone Party of Manitoba. I noticed people have been putting it in the chat already. Keystone Party of Manitoba. And yeah, check out who we are, spread the news to your friends, and we will be coming to a town near you. We will be using the media as our tool, not as our friend, definitely not. But the hope and prayer that I have is that we at least educate every Manitoban as to who we are.
This is great. And please, let's stay in touch, because as you move closer to your election, we want to familiarize you with the people in your country, as well as here in America. All of a sudden, we, like I said earlier, Canada was never on our radar, just a peaceful, loving nation. And when this started to happen and we started to get the word out, well, we know that we're married together. Hey, thanks a lot there, Kevin.
One more thing I'll add. I just noticed in the comments there that somebody was talking about some of the other parties that are being formed. The sad thing is that no other party that has been started up recently has won an election from a provincial standpoint. So the Ontario party, none of them were able to get a seat. I really believe we're going to be able to be an official party. We're aiming to get 5 or 6 seats, but it's only going to be because of the people of Manitoba, and obviously because of the higher power that we were talking about earlier, that we're going to make that happen. So,
and Kevin, I like the idea that what you just said, and we've had that problem here in America. Folks, don't listen to fake news, deception. As Kevin said, I'll say here in America, we're not extremists. We believe in working within the framework of the law, because the law is on our side. But there will be government agents, if you will, that I should use the word operatives, that will try to mislead you. So just get all the facts. Don't believe everything you hear from these people. Just remember, my words, not Kevin's, and I'll say that about here in America. The extremists in this country are in the White House. The extremists in this country are Democrats. It's not we the people. And Kevin, I tell you, it was very enjoyable. Any last word after the last word?
No, thank you very much for putting us on your show. And I didn't know much. I did not know you before that, and really appreciate you helping us out, and do look forward to doing more with you in the future.
We're going to do it, my friend. Thank you, and I salute you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Folks, I got to tell you, every single time we have a guest on like Kevin, I thank God. I mean, look at, there's a born leader right there, folks. And, we talk about constantly in America, and I'm sure you talk about constantly in Canada, where are all the heroes? Where are they? Well, you just saw one, right? You just saw one, and he made it clear that you're the hero. Mom, dad, look in the mirror. You're the hero to your children, and then you're the hero to your country. Because if you get involved, really get involved, By doing what? Well, the question I get from people all the time is, what can I do? Well, I'll tell you what you can do. You could pray. Did you hear what Kevin said when I asked him any last words? The first thing he said was, pray for us. And that's what we need to do. Let's keep in mind that we there's power in prayer. You got personal problems and you got difficulties and you got challenges. I'm sure you do. We all do. Don't give up. Give up on man, fine. Don't give up on God. I've given up on a lot of mankind. I've given up on some friends, for goodness sakes. Well, frankly, maybe they've given up on me. But the fact of the matter is that never give up on God. Never, never, never. Now, folks, before you go, I've got some good news for you, and we're going to probably do this in about a month or so. We're going to merge, all right? We're going to merge Tonight in America with Tonight in Canada, and we're going to stay on Thursday nights, 7 o'clock, no more Monday nights, and we're going to rebrand the program into This Week in North America. And it'll be all about Canada and the United States, merging all of what we're doing together. We'll have guests on from the United States, guests on from Canada, because, I was talking to the team. I said, there's so much that we are both as countries going through, so much. And so instead of having two separate broadcasts, we're going to have one right here, Thursday nights, as usual, 7 p.m., maybe beginning in December, and it'll be called This Week in North America. And you see this here, you're going to see this here, and you're going to see this here. And we're not going nowhere. All right, folks. So now I'm going to ask you what I don't like to ask, but I have to, because we are expanding really dramatically. We're doing a lot of different things, and we want to continue to expand our social media platforms. So you see where it says to donate? If you could, folks, please donate. Go to campaignforamerica.com. You'll see it says donate box, or you can mail a check to us, and there's the address. Whatever you can do. It costs a lot of money, but I've always said this: you pay your bills first, you pay your mortgage, you pay for your kids, you take care of your family first, and then we'll be second. How's that sound? But just take care of yourself first. But we're getting to a point where we're getting to realize that, I talked to Kevin earlier, and I said, we prayed in the beginning of the birth of this broadcast, the prayer of Joab, I believe it is. Lord, expand our territory. Man, did he answer that prayer? I mean, look at what's happened here. Not only Canada, but now we're globally. But what did God use in order to really get that message out? He used the Canadian truckers convoy to bring a message to people, not only here in America, but worldwide, that, you know what, we could do this in peace. We could do it within the framework of the law. We could do this thing. And so it truly is a team effort. We learn from each other. As Americans, we learn from Canadians. Canadians learn from us. And all of us learn right from here, our rock. How's that sound? All right, folks. So campaignforamerica.com. We're taking credit cards. It's more secure. It's better. We did away with PayPal because they started, I understand they allegedly took money from the truckers convoy. They got involved with the government up there, doing things that I think were terrible. They were going to fine people down here. They wanted to dictate, according to their new rules as we interpret it, as to what we should put on the air, what we shouldn't put on the air. So instead of them toying with us, we fired them. We got rid of them. And not only us, but thousands and thousands of people, I understand, even large companies, have gotten rid of PayPal, and now their stockholders are suffering. That's their problem, not ours. So, but we want to stay on the air. Keep us going, folks. Just keep us going. And remember, at the end of the day, I'll tell you, folks, we win and they lose. So I'm going to now shorten the broadcast tonight. We have one of our last of two more meetings of Project Make Believe. When that project is done, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do with the information. It's a learning experience. It's information that we believe will educate our lawmakers here and the public about what's going on in Canada. We're going to publicize a lot of that. And I'll tell you what, folks, I'm pleased as the work that people have done with that project. And I'm pleased with the work the Canadian people are doing, like Kevin and others, and what we're doing here in the United States. So listen, stay away from the fake news and all the gloom and doom. We're well. We're alive and well in the United States, believe me. We're going to take the House, preferably take the Senate, but if we don't, that's okay. you know what, we could move on and progress without the Senate. It'd be nice to have it, but in due course we will. But in the meantime, watch and see what we begin to do in the House of Representatives. That's it, folks. God bless you all. Stand by for our final commercial. And thank you so much. And God bless you. And we'll see you next Monday, Tonight in America. And then Thursday again, Tonight in Canada. And then hopefully after that, come December, this week in North America. Thank you. God bless you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Please, if you can, remember, you could help us out a lot. I'd appreciate it. Have a good evening. We the people know who the enemies of freedom, liberty, and individual rights are. You talk about a reset. You talk about censorship. You talk about taking land. You talk about economic slavery. And you talk about government control over the people. You have always talked about these things, and throughout history have always tried to take from us our freedom and our liberty. Well, I have news for you. You will never take from us our freedom, our liberty, and never, never our individual rights, because they are gifts from God, and the scriptures tell us that where the Spirit of the Lord is, so is freedom. We will never surrender to you. We will never negotiate with you. We will defeat you and send you to the ash bin of history where all communists reside. Look at this flag and look at this flag. You have reason to fear these two symbols of freedom because the people who proudly fly these flags have become a mighty powerful force for freedom and liberty. Remember this, at the end of the day, you lose and we win. Let freedom reign.